you go to an acupuncturist and they place needles into you, they're not just doing it randomly. They're placing those needles into specific points on the body called acupressure points, and we have them all over our body. So if you know what acupressure points to press to be able to get whatever effect, then you can feel very, very different. You can let go of pain. Emotionally, you can feel completely different. Mentally, you can feel completely different. So that's what we do in tapping, but instead of putting needles into the acupressure points, we tap them.
Greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of Naturally You Radio, where we help Black women to eat for health, think for happiness and live in harmony. And today we are interviewing a wonderful sister who's worked with and delivered talks and workshops with the Naturally You coach now for about 3 years. And she's going to be talking about something called tapping. Now, the 3 pillars of the work that we do is to eat for health, think for happiness and live in harmony. And I feel like what she does is helping with that thinking for happiness and living in harmony. She does a process called tapping, or EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is basically the very basic, and I might butcher this, so she's going to clarify this when she starts talking, but it's a process where you tap certain energy centers on your body to stimulate the flow of energy through your body and help to release trauma, which is a big claim, but it's science-backed. It's science-backed. The sister's been doing it for years, and I really wanted her to come on and share with you all this amazing technique that you can use to help your healing journey. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the wonderful Carmen. Carmen, welcome to Naturally You Radio. How are you, sis?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. So can we start off by you introducing yourself to the sisters and letting everyone know who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, my name's Carmen Gilfillan. I started out as a life coach back in 2006. I set up my practice called Stimulus, and I was originally just coaching people. So looking at where they are now, where they want to be, and how they get there. And I realized that something wasn't gelling with certain people. You know, we would agree that people would do certain things between, say, now and the next session. They'd come back and they wouldn't be done. And I realized that there was something going on emotionally. And at the time, I didn't have the tools to deal with it. So I was just doing life coaching. I had trained in Reiki, so I was a Reiki practitioner back in 2006. But even that didn't really help my clients as such. So I sort of had a couple of friends who were in the therapy arenas, and both of them independently of each other told me about this thing called tapping. Never heard of it. Looked into it, tried it on myself for about 2 years. And I had a huge amount of stuff going on for me emotionally that went back to my school days. And I virtually cleared all of that just using tapping. So I incorporated that into my business. So I became what I called a life coach and an energy therapist, because Reiki is a form of energy healing, so is the tapping. And so I started to merge those 3 entities, or those 2 entities, the life coaching and the energy healing. And now that's what I do. I've written 2 books that I'll talk about later, but they both talk about, to a greater or lesser extent, this technique called tapping. And I've just had so many success stories that has become the backbone of what I do. And it's also a really significant part of something called Sweden, which is a 12-week coaching program that I run. Sweden is an acronym. It's nothing to do with the place Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
But the S stands for sleep, the W stands for water, the E stands for energy healing, the D stands for diet, the other E stands for exercise, and then the N stands for nutrition. So I look at those 6 areas of your health and well-being, and I've had people go through that program and they've just been transformed. So even though I call myself an emotional health specialist, because it's what I specialize in, I also look at health and well-being in its broader context. So that's like an overview of what I do.
Thank you. Do you mind just sharing how you got into it? You said you had challenges that the tapping helped you with stemming back from your childhood. And I know a lot of my challenges that I am faced with now, mentally, emotionally, and physically, stem back to my childhood as well. Would you mind sharing what it was that you went through and how the tapping helped with that?
Yeah, I just found it really difficult at school. Um, we moved when I was about 9, 10 years old to a predominantly white area. Um, not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
I did, and went to a predominantly white school. I think if I remember rightly, I was the only black girl in my year. So I just found it really difficult. A lot of the people around me were very intelligent. I got moved up in the second year of secondary school, and yeah, and the classes that I were in, it was just white students. The teachers were white, and I just found it very difficult to mix. I found it very difficult to kind of communicate. I try and speak, but something was always stopping me. I didn't feel that I belonged really necessarily. And there was all this emotional stuff going on. And if you are not comfortable in your skin, then that's going to come out in so many different ways. So I just found it really difficult, A, to communicate, B, to really fit in at school. Went through quite a bit of racism, not really in secondary school. It was more in the junior school, just after we moved. Um, and that racism that I went through in the junior school kind of stayed with me um, into the secondary school. And that's one of the things that really I felt had an impact on my self-esteem and my confidence
Mm.
in secondary school. So that then went into my adulthood. And that's the thing, if we go through a lot of trauma, whether it's trauma with a big T or trauma with a small t, when we're younger, if we don't deal with it or we don't know how to deal with it,
Mm.
it can follow us into adulthood. And it really stayed with me, a lot of that stuff around, especially around the communication, especially around feeling at ease in my own skin. That followed me into my 20s and 30s. And it was only really when I discovered tapping that I was able to deal with a lot of that stuff from my school days and just get rid of it or bring it down to a level where I could manage it. It
Mhm.
wasn't bigger than me. It was then small enough for me to sort of think, well, okay, it's that thing that happened when I was 12 or whatever. Do a bit of tapping on that, keep that down, or get rid of that. And yeah, I just found that to be an immensely powerful place to be. Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that. So now to get more into more detail about what tapping is.
Mm,
So I think I did hear about tapping years ago. I remember years ago I went to like a raw food retreat,
mm,
and I think it was only like a 3-day retreat or 2-day retreat or something. And during one of the breaks, there was a guy who was saying, "Oh yeah, I do emotional freedom technique and I do this tapping thing." So he was doing this tapping thing, and honestly, I was like, "What is that going to do?" you just
yeah.
you're just tapping yourself. Like, what?
What is that?
How could that possibly do anything? And he was a little bit fringe. He was a little bit,
Mm.
otherworldly. So I didn't even pay much attention to it. Then when I met you, I'm like, "But she seems pretty sensible. she she seems pretty sensible, and she's tapping.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to be said about this whole tapping thing." So can you, but I mean, to be fair, I'm a live blood analyst, and I thought the same thing about live blood analysis when I first saw it. I thought it was nonsense until I started actually
Mm.
doing it. So, can you explain what the process of tapping is
Yeah.
and how it actually works?
It works on your energy system and it does what it says on the tin. Tapping is something that you do on your body. You're tapping your body. It's based on acupuncture, which is thousands of years old. And when you go to an acupuncturist and they place needles into you, they're not just doing it randomly.
Mm.
They're placing those needles into specific points on the body called acupressure points. And we have them all over our body. So if you know what acupressure points to press to be able to get whatever effect, then you can feel very, very different. You can let go of pain. Emotionally, you can feel completely different. Mentally, you can feel completely different. So that's what we do in tapping, but instead of putting needles into the acupressure points, we tap them. So what we're doing is stimulating those acupressure points, and that then leads to the release of energy. So it allows the energy to flow unimpeded throughout.
Mm.
So it's a bit like when you're sitting on the settee, you're watching telly, and you sort of think, oh God, I've been sitting here for too long. I need to get up and move around. So you get up, you move around, do whatever you want to do a bit of stretching, go for a run or whatever, or a walk. You come back, you sit back down, you feel completely different to when you were sitting down because you've moved energy throughout the body. And we do something similar, but we tap the acupressure points and we use language to help that process. So the actual process itself is very simple. You only tap acupressure points on the upper body and on the hands. And the language that you use are very simple statements, but the intention behind them is very strong and very, very powerful. So
Mm.
you can do a couple of rounds of tapping, and the rounds are very, very quick. Use language and then feel less tense, feel lighter, feel calmer. And sometimes you actually have a different perspective on your issue. So if you've got if you've, I don't know, had a row with your partner, for example, yesterday, and it's still with you today, you can actually do a couple of rounds of tapping, let go of that tension, and feel completely different about that argument.
Mm.
It is that powerful. It's very, very powerful, very simple, but very, very powerful.
Thank you, sis. So Carmen's actually come onto the platform before, and she's done um, like a actual workshop on tapping. It was like a full 2 hour intensive workshop on tapping. And some of the sisters that were on it, she asked them to, focus on a specific pain or discomfort in the body. And she asked them to rate it before she started doing the tapping. And then we went through and she taught us how to do the tapping. And then they went through 3 rounds of tapping and they said their intentions. And then she asked them to rate it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the, do you remember this, sis?
Yeah,
All
I
of
do.
the sisters' numbers had gone down. All of their numbers had gone down. Now, to be honest, during that particular workshop, I wasn't able to participate. I was just like doing work in the background and listening. And as soon as everyone said their numbers had dropped, I'm like, oh man, I should have done it with them. I should have done it with them. So, can we do a demonstration of it now for the
We can.
audience so that they can see what the
Yeah,
tapping
sure.
is? I'm going to participate in it. I'm not focused on anything else. I'm going to participate in it so that everyone can see both of us do it. And then and you can follow along at home, ladies. So if you're listening to this on the audio platform, we're going to describe what we're doing. And if you're watching it visually, and if you want to see it visually, you can find it on the website, naturallyyoucoach.com, or on the podcast page, or on our YouTube channel as well. So, Carmen, if you could talk us through how you would do a round of tapping and what we would say, and then I'll follow along.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want you to do is just to think of something in your life, something genuine
Yes.
that is causing you a mild amount of distress. Nothing too big. This is
Okay.
just a taster.
Yeah.
Something that's causing you a mild amount of distress. So it could be, like I said before, it could be an argument with someone. It could be something that somebody said to you that, is still making you feel a certain way. You might have an interview coming up that you're nervous about. You might be nervous about driving or nervous about going on a particular trip somewhere. I don't know. Anything. So just become aware of that issue. And then what I want you to do is to become aware of how that issue makes you feel. When I say makes you feel, it makes you feel in inverted commas because, we decide how we feel at the end of the day. But when you think about that issue, how do you feel emotionally? So if it's, for example, an argument that you had, for example, when you think about that argument, how do you feel? Are you upset? Are you angry? Are you intimidated by the other person? How do you feel emotionally? What emotions are coming up for you? And then I want you to tune into those emotions. And then sometimes people feel it in their body. So sometimes if you know, if you think about the argument and you feel anxious, sometimes you might feel something in your solar plexus. You might feel like a tightness in your solar plexus or across your chest. Some people talk about a band across their chest. You might feel butterflies in your stomach. So are you feeling anything in your body when you think about that issue? And I want you, and this is totally subjective, there's no right or wrong answer. I want you to score the intensity of those feelings out of 10. So if you're angry when you think about this argument, you're going to have 10 is like, I've got steam coming out my ears, I can't stand it. Yeah. 0 is, nah, nothing. I don't feel anything at all. Yeah. So where are you on that scale? Where are you? Okay. So you should have an issue, should be aware of how it makes you feel, and you should have a score. So now we're going to tap. So all I want you to do is to do what I do and say what I say. Yeah, we're going to introduce some language into it, but the language is very, very simple, and I'll talk you through that. Okay. So we're going to start with the side of the hand. So this we call the karate chop point. Okay. So you're tapping the flesh, you tap with the left or the right. It doesn't right-handed, so I tend to tap on my left hand with my right hand. Okay, so you're tapping this fleshy part of your hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to say what we call the setup statement. So this is a statement that tells your subconscious mind what it is that you want to focus on. Okay, so what we're going to say is, even though I'm feeling, and you fill in the gap. So when you think about the issue, you say whatever you're feeling. Even though I'm feeling anxious, even though I'm feeling angry, even though I'm feeling upset, even though I'm feeling down, whatever your word is or your words, you fill in that gap. And then we're going to finish with, I accept how I feel. I accept how I feel. So if you can get to this place of acceptance, it's actually quite powerful because you can actually start the release process just by saying, I accept how I feel. And we're going to say that 2 more times. All right. Even though I'm feeling whatever it is you're feeling, I accept how I feel. And then we're going to say that 1 more time. Even though I'm feeling, for example, anxious, I accept how I feel. Okay. That's your setup statement done. All right. So we're now going to go to the first tapping point, which is the top of the head. So you're tapping the top of your head. And what we're going to do is take 1 or 2 words from that setup statement. So for example, my setup statement was, even though I'm feeling anxious, I accept how I feel. So my statement, which we call the reminder statement, and that's the statement that we use as we're going around the tapping points, will be this anxiety. If your setup statement was, even though I'm feeling angry, I accept how I feel, then your reminder statement will be this anger. So it's whatever the main emotion is, that will be your reminder statement. And we're just reminding the subconscious mind what we're focusing on as we're going around the tapping points. So you tap the top of your head. Okay, you can tap in a circle if you want to. And then the next tapping points are right where the hairs of the eyebrows start. So with the first 2 fingers of both hands, you tap here and here. Okay, so right where the hairs of the eyebrows start. And you just repeat your reminder statement. So this anxiety. Okay. And then you're going to come around to the sides of the eye. So you're tapping on the eye sockets, on the bony part of the eye. So you're not too close to the eyes. So you're keeping it nice and safe. And you just repeat your reminder statement, this anxiety, or whatever it is for you. The next tapping points are underneath the eyes. So again, you're tapping on the eye socket. So you're tapping on the bony parts of the eyes, nice and safe, away from the eyes. And just repeat your reminder statement, this anxiety. So the next tapping point is underneath the nose, this anxiety. So you're tapping the fleshy part of the upper lip. Okay. And we use 2 fingers just so we cover a wider area. Yeah. The next tapping point is the middle of the crease of the chin, this anxiety. And normally you only need to tap these points probably about 7 to 10 times. We're tapping them a bit longer because I'm actually demonstrating this to you, but 7 to 10 times is sufficient. So the next tapping points are the collarbone points. So find the middle of your collarbones. You just come down slightly until you find the 2 dips and you tap this anxiety. So I'm tapping with all my fingers. You can tap with 2 fingers. You can also open the hand and tap with the flat of the hand. So you're catching these 2 points with your thumb and your middle finger. Okay. So this anxiety. All right. So either this or this. And then the last tapping point is actually on the bra line, directly on the bra line, under the armpit. So your armpit is here, so you don't want to tap here. You want to tap about a hand width below that, actually directly on the bra line. Okay, and repeat your reminder statement, this anxiety. So we're going to go around those tapping points one more time. We're not going to repeat the setup statement because we're not changing what we're tapping on, right? We're tapping on the same thing. So we're going to go back to the top of the head, this anxiety. Beginning of the eyebrows, this anxiety. Side of the eyes on the eye sockets, this anxiety. Under the eyes on the eye sockets, this anxiety. Under the nose, fleshy part of the upper lip, this anxiety. Middle of the crease of the chin, this anxiety. Collarbone points, find the middle of your collarbones, come down to the dips and tap, this anxiety. And then with the flat of the hand, about a hand width from the armpit is here, hand width down, this anxiety. Okay. So I want you to take 3 long deep breaths in. So stop tapping and take 3 long deep breaths in from your abdomen. Let it go. And let it go. And let it go. Okay. So with your eyes open or with your eyes closed, whatever's more comfortable for you, just focus on your body first of all. And just become aware of any change in your body whatsoever, even if it's very subtle. Just become aware of any change in your body at all compared to before you started tapping. And then become aware of how you're feeling emotionally about your issue now that you've tapped. And then also become aware of your score. What was your score before? And what is it now you've tapped? And then finally come back to your issue. How do you now feel about that issue? How do you now feel about that argument? How do you now feel about that interview? How do you now feel about whatever it is that you were tapping on now that you've tapped? And that is basically what we call the basic recipe of tapping. Tapping is also known as EFT. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Therapy or Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's also known as acupuncture without the needles. I had to think about that one. And obviously it's also known as tapping, which is the popular name for it. So hopefully you're feeling a bit different.
Yeah.
Now that you've done some tapping Leah, I don't know how you're feeling now that you've done some tapping.
So I had my feeling was disappointment from a
Right.
conversation that I had, and the feeling
Mm.
was in my chest. It was like
Yeah.
butterflies, but not in my tummy. It was more kind of up here, kind of like,
Mhm.
yeah, not being able to kind of speak, kind of tingling
Yeah, 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 yeah,
butterflies, that kind of
yeah.
feeling. And it's gone.
Hey,
Actually completely gone. And
hey.
yeah, so it's gone from it was maybe like a 6
Right.
to yeah, it's just I literally can't
Mm.
there's nothing there now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And this is common. This is a
Yeah.
common reaction. And we just did 2 rounds. That took us what, minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. An entire one-to-one session takes an hour, probably 75
Mm,
minutes, something like that. So you can imagine what you
yeah.
can shift in that hour.
Now what I do realize, like, so I even though I didn't do it with you the last time we did the event, I have done it
Mm.
subsequently. And I always end up doing it like last thing at night. That's normally when I find time to do it. And I always find that once I've done one, I'm like, there are about 4 more things I need to do right now. I want to do it on
Yeah.
this, I want to do it on that, I want to do it on the
Ah,
other, I want to do it on this.
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I need to do, I think I remember you saying it's a good to do kind of like 7 to 10 rounds of it. Um, and I sometimes feel like 7 to 10 is enough. Sometimes I feel like I need to sit there longer. So I can well imagine I've never done it more than one round,
Yeah.
what one a few rounds on one thing. But how deep can how deep can it go kind of thing? How, you know, how much can come up in the work in what you've experienced so far when you're working with people, like how deep can the tapping go in far as far as like healing someone, not healing someone, but stimulating their healing pathways.
Yeah, I mean, it can go just really deep, really, really deep. Um I've had people um for who this has changed their lives completely.
Mm.
I've had people connect with people who have passed over. I've heard
Oh.
I've had people who have when they've connected with those people through the tapping, they've had revelations. And
Mm.
you're not directly connecting with them as such, as in, what you would do with a medium.
Yeah.
But, you're we are still connected with people
Yeah.
who pass over. So, you get those messages, you get those insights. And people in relationships, their relationships have changed. I've had clients who have had issues, like parental issues, like issues with
Mm.
their, I've had 2 clients in particular, had really, really, really bad relationships with their mothers. And in both cases, their relationship has completely transformed. I've had clients where they've witnessed murders, and
Mm.
that has just taken over their lives almost. And through tapping, um, they've managed to kind of, in their minds, go through the whole incident and have nothing come up emotionally.
Mm.
So it's very, very powerful. And I say to people, do not be um don't be fooled by the simplicity of what you've just experienced, because what people tend to do is they have the reaction that you had initially. Oh, what can that do? That can't possibly do anything. Yeah, it's too simple.
Mm.
Yeah. And we rubbish things that are simple because we want things to be complicated. And yes, the way we use the technique in a one-to-one scenario is very different. It's deeper, but you can still get some amazing results from just doing what we've done today. But it can go very, very, very deep. People's lives have been transformed. People that have had issues around maybe the effects of a really bad accident that's haunted them for like the last 30 years,
Mm.
they can get rid of some of the effects of that accident, you know, in 1 to 6 sessions.
Mm.
Yeah. There have been it's been tested on ex-Vietnam vets. The first scientific study was with 6 ex-Vietnam vets,
Oh.
and they each had 6 sessions each. They each had really extreme PTSD,
Mm.
and in all 6 cases, they got rid of their PTSD with 6 sessions of tapping,
Mm.
6 1-hour sessions of tapping. So that's 6 hours of tapping.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes deep. Yeah, very
Yeah.
deep.
Um, when you link it to acupuncture,
Yeah,
I think that can help some people because acupuncture is becoming a lot more well known.
yeah,
The research that I've done in acupuncture, there's like 135 points along 12 meridians in the body, and even though the medical institution doesn't know exactly what's happening, it's been documented that acupuncture helps to stimulate serotonin, reduce cortisol. They
right.
recommend it now for pain.
Yeah,
And I know that you were saying, in fact, that physical pains and discomforts, as well as the emotional trauma, is another application for tapping. Can you talk a bit more about, about that?
yeah. It's exactly what you've mentioned about the cortisol, because we
Okay.
need cortisol in our bodies because it's what gets us out of bed. It's what gets us into our day. Um, but what's happening in the 21st century is that our cortisol is being spiked many, many times a day because a lot of us have quite stressful lives.
Mm.
And it's not always useful in the body, because if your cortisol is too high, for instance, when you go to bed,
Mm.
you're going to be tired, but what they call tired but wired. You're going to be in bed tired, but you can't sleep because your cortisol levels are too high.
Yeah.
And that can be damaging on the physical body. So you want to bring those cortisol levels down when they spike, and you can do that with the tapping. And when tapping first started, there was virtually no scientific evidence backing it up, and that's why it took a long time to take off. Now there are numerous studies on tapping and the physical applications of tapping, and it has been proven that it, for example, lowers your heart rate. If your heart rate is too high, it can lower your heart rate. um, you know, People with anxiety and the physical effects of anxiety, it's been shown to reduce those effects. The amygdala, which is the part of the brain that keeps us in fight flight, EFT directly, it calms that part of the brain down directly. So if you're, for example, like I mentioned, going into an interview before, if you're if you're kind of waiting to go into the interview, you could be in a complete state because you're like we said before, your cortisol levels are going to be off the charts. You're going to be in fight flight because your body is going to think that you're in danger and you're going to die. That's your amygdala firing off.
Yeah.
Tapping can calm that down, which has a direct effect on the nervous system, which has a direct effect on how you feel physically. So things like, the tightness in the chest would ease, the butterflies in the stomach will ease or go away. The tension in the solar plexus, that will ease, that will go away. And all of this has been scientifically studied. Yeah. There's a woman called Peter Stapleton who's written a book called The Science of Tapping, and that is absolutely fantastic because it goes through a lot of the studies that have been conducted worldwide on this very, very simple technique and how it has positively affected us on a physical level. So yeah, there's a lot of scientific proof of how effective it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do you think this, or how do you feel tapping could benefit Black women in this day and time?
I just, it's amazing how much stuff I think as black women especially that we carry, and we don't realize that we're not just carrying stuff from how we're living today, we're carrying stuff energetically from the past, and it's what we've been through as as a people in the
Mm.
past. Like, for example, the effects of slavery.
Yeah.
We're still carrying that. We might not realize it, but we're
Mm.
still carrying that emotionally.
Yeah.
And that can have an effect on us physically as well. And especially as Black women. I mean, when you think about what Black women went through, I'm just going to use slavery as an example. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you can imagine what Black women went through during slavery, you know, ripped apart, families ripped apart, your kids taken off you, your husband or your partner taken off you, and you just have to cope, being raped, um, you know, and that has an effect on that generation emotionally, energetically, yeah. And in the same way that, you might have your grandmother's chin. Apparently, I've got my grandmother's chin. You
Oh.
might have um your great grandmother's nose. You might have your great great grandmother's some of her characteristics. So in the same way that you have characteristics coming down, you
Mm.
have the energy of those people coming down as
Mm.
well. So some of the stuff that we're carrying as Black women that we think is our stuff, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it might be our stuff because we're still going through it. Yeah. We're still fighting to be recognized. Some of us have stopped the fight. But I mean, some of the stuff that you're carrying emotionally might not be your stuff.
Mm.
Might have gone back. It might have gone back um, hundreds of years to your foremothers and what they went through. Yeah. And those of you who've got children, that comes down energetically to your unborn child as well.
Mm.
Yeah. So, you can use tapping if you're pregnant, for example,
Oh.
to help to keep your nervous system nice and calm. Yeah. Um, so I would say that, as Black women, because of what we're going through now, and but also because of what we've been through in the past, tapping is just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, the clients that I've had, in the past, um, they have overcome so much. There's so many women that I've met who have been, for example, sexually abused when they were children. Yeah. Um, when I say children, I mean like
Mm.
6 years old, being raped at 6. I've had clients who have been gang raped,
Mm.
and if you don't know how to deal with that, then you will carry the effects of that through your life. And that will then eventually have an effect on you physically because your aura is in layers. And eventually it will penetrate those layers and it will come down to the physical body. So you may start getting aches and pains. You may start feeling discomfort in your body that you can't put. The root of it is when you were abused by your uncle when you were 6 years old. Yeah. So we go there with tapping. And if you're a trained EFT therapist, you will know how to go there in a very, very safe and structured way. And just to kind of stress that, we have what we call distancing techniques. So some people feel that they have to dive into the experience and re-trigger themselves to be able to heal. You don't, because sometimes just re-triggering yourself is not helpful to your physical and emotional and mental body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have very safe distancing techniques that we use. We use screen work,
Mm.
which is one of the distancing techniques that we use so that you can go there, but you can go there safely
Right.
and do it incrementally.
Right.
So it's fantastic for us, fantastic tool.
Mm. So one of the things that a lot of sisters that I work with have in common, and something that we know affects a lot of women, is womb health challenges, whether that's, period challenges or
Yeah.
fertility or, more longer term situations like fibroids or endometriosis? How does tapping, um, can tapping help sisters that have womb health challenges in particular?
It depends on what the root cause is of the challenge. So if it's something emotional, because some of these things can be triggered by something that like I said, happened in your past. And that's what I mean about effects on the physical body. Yeah. So you might have had a trauma in your childhood that is actually affecting you physically. So if the root cause of the issue that you have is something that happened in your childhood, if we can go back and if we can deal with the emotional fallout of that issue, and if we can deal with how you're responding emotionally to that issue, and if we can put it to bed in the sense that when you can think about that episode without breaking out in a sweat, without crying, without having that emotional meltdown, then sometimes the effect is that it it has a positive knock-on effect on the physical body. So I'm not saying that if, for example, you have fibroids, you tap on something that happened to you when you were 5 years old and the fibroids go. I'm not saying that. Yeah. What I am saying is that sometimes the root of these things might be emotional. And if you can start to deal with the emotions, the emotional fallout of something that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, then sometimes, I've had people say to me, God, I've had this backache for 2 weeks. And I don't know, I can't get rid of it. And then we've had a tapping session and they've said, I don't know if it's psychological, but my back pain's gone.
Yeah.
So that back pain, the root cause of that back pain might have been something that happened to them when they were younger that we were actually tapping on. Yeah. So your body, your physical body may change. You might feel, people talk about feeling lighter. Sometimes people who are arthritic, who have got, arthritis in their, in their knees, for example, then their knees their knees don't feel as stiff.
Right.
They don't feel as painful. Some people that have got eyesight issues, if they do a very, very deep tapping, then they can see better. Their hearing is more acute. Yeah? Their taste buds are sharper. So it can have an effect on you physically.
Yeah.
And even your internal organs. What you're doing is you're conditioning your internal organs. So for example, your collarbone points are linked to your kidneys. So if you have kidney issues, then you could focus more on, say, the collarbone points. Yeah. To condition your kidneys.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
speaking of that specifically, how did whoever came up with tapping decide of the 135 points roughly that those were the points that would always work in this process? How was that determined? Was it like trial and error, or?
It was the person that founded EFT was somebody called Gary Craig. So he was an engineer and he was an ordained minister as well. And he was the student of somebody called Roger Callahan. And Roger Callahan had devised a similar tapping technique back in the 80s called thought field therapy, or TFT. And that was based on all of the tapping points in the body. So somebody studying TFT, would need to understand all of the tapping points in the body and what they do. Yeah. And Gary was a student of Roger Callahan. And he'd learnt TFT and thought, well, he wanted something for the average person. and something that people could learn in about 10 minutes or less,
Oh, right.
which was effective,
Mm.
where you just used a selection of tapping points that can give you a similar effect, if not the same effect as TFT. So
Oh,
he was the one who came up with these specific tapping points. Yeah. And he realized that with these tapping points, the upper body points, when you tap them, they actually stimulate all of the other tapping points in the body. So
oh,
you don't need to kind of find the specific points on the
right.
body that you need to say get rid of pain.
Mm.
You can just use these upper body points,
Mm.
all of them or most of them,
Yeah.
and you will get you'll get relief. So it was him that devised it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does
came up with it.
anyone use it? Have you ever heard anyone use it? And I know you can't recommend this, but has anyone used that as a complete replacement for their healthcare?
Not that I know of, not that I've come across. Nobody's told me that they've used it as a replacement
Mm.
for their healthcare. I don't advise people to come off medication because I can't.
Yeah.
So we don't we kind of use disclaimers. Um,
Mm.
I've got a session that I run um, on a regular basis, and I've got a disclaimer in there now which says that it's not a substitute for um, any kind of like medical intervention. And if you feel that you need to get medical advice, then you need to get medical advice.
Mm.
So it's not, I don't know of anybody who has used it as a replacement.
Yeah.
Um, but there might be people who have completely come off their medication as
Mm.
opposed, as a result of using EFT. I can't think of any of my clients who have said that they have done that,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there must be,
Mm.
because if you feel better,
Yeah.
then you're not going to necessarily need as much medication as you ordinarily would be taking.
Mm.
um, but I know that when I was training for my level 2 EFT, I think somebody had an abscess,
Oh, wow.
and they had pain from the abscess.
Oh, yeah.
And because we were using tapping all the way through the training,
Yeah.
their abscess, the pain went. But
Oh,
they had to remind themselves that they had to go to the dentist to get the abscess looked at, because they just felt they had no pain. So, so from that point of view, you need to kind of be mindful that,
yeah.
you still need to get it checked out,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make sure that there's nothing that needs to be treated medically. Yeah, so you do need to be mindful. But
Mm.
it's powerful because it's targeting the whole body. This technique targets the whole body,
Mm.
and you're targeting the emotions. And the emotions are very, very powerful. They could be at the root cause of some of the physical issues that you're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why people feel so different. That's why people feel lighter. That's why they've got more, they feel less discomfort,
Yeah.
because you're getting that energy moving through those meridians.
Yeah.
And that puts the body in the right environment to heal itself. The body can heal itself.
Mm.
We just need to get ourselves out of the way and know how to allow it to do that. In the same way that if you have flu, you've got to allow your body to sweat. You've got to
Yeah.
allow yourself to feel rough,
Yeah.
because that's the body's natural defense system kicking in
Mm.
to heal you.
Mm.
So don't take stuff to stop the sweating.
Yeah.
Don't take stuff to stop your nose running. Don't take
Mm.
stuff to make you feel better, because it's the body knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something
Well,
like tapping will help the body to heal itself.
yeah. Thanks, sis. How often do you reckon people, even though you can, feel relief and things like that, how,
Mm.
immediately almost,
Yeah.
how often do you reckon someone should tap and incorporate tapping into their lives?
Well, what I say to people is, if you can get into a habit of tapping 10 to 20 rounds in the morning, and I'll show you in a second what a round is.
Mm.
10 to 20 rounds in the morning, 10 to 20 rounds if you can around lunchtime-ish, and then 10 to 20 rounds maybe kind of late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah.
That is going to stand you in really good stead, because I know people who have done this, who've incorporated this into their lives, and they've said to me that they just feel generally calmer, and they're more able to deal with what life throws at them, and situations that they would normally find stressful, they can deal with. Yeah. I know one person said to me, normally I'm in the background, but I'm just finding that I'm leading.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just from the tapping.
Can you
So
tell us what a round is?
a round of tapping
Yeah.
would be, even though I'm feeling like this, I'm okay. You can say okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of I accept how I feel.
Yeah.
Even though I'm feeling like this, I'm okay. Even though I'm feeling like this, I'm okay. And like this can be anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling like this, 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 feeling like this. That's a round.
Right.
If you've done the setup statement,
Yeah.
you don't have to do it again. So your
Right.
second round would be feeling like this, 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 feeling like this. Third round, feeling like this, feeling like, etc. Yeah. So that can 10 to 20 rounds can take you what, 5 to 7 minutes?
Yeah.
You have 5 to 7 minutes in the morning to do some tapping.
Yeah.
And it will
Yeah.
set your day off really nicely.
Yeah.
Really nicely. And then you can top it up at lunchtime and top it up in the evening. That's what I recommend to people.
Can you tap for good things?
Yeah,
Because obviously,
definitely.
not to say that at morning, lunch, and dinner, there won't be a new challenge that we're faced with, because we're always feeling different emotions all throughout the day. But does tapping work on kind of positive emotions, like enhancing
Yeah.
positive emotions?
Oh
How does
yeah.
that work?
Yeah. You become aware of how you're feeling in the same way you become aware of any negative emotions that you're feeling. And you can accentuate them. Yeah. I'm feeling this joy in myself. I love how I'm feeling. I like this joy. I like this sense of freedom that I'm feeling. This sense of joy, this sense of joy,
Ah, okay.
sense of joy, this sense of joy, this sense of freedom, this sense of freedom, this sense of freedom, this sense of, and you can accentuate it.
Oh,
Having said that,
yeah.
you do it when you've tapped out the negative.
Okay.
And I need to say something about that. Some of the viewers might be thinking, well, why are we focusing on the negative? Why can't we focus on the positive? It may seem as if you're focusing on the negative. What you're doing is that you're being really authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
And to how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes into its own. I've had clients where they've said, no, it's fine. I'm fine. I've tapped. I'm okay. Yeah. And then they might have slipped something into the conversation. And I thought, well, I'm just picking up on this little thing that you said over here. Let's do some tapping on that. And then that just opens up a can of worms. And you realize that there's all of this stuff over here that you've not dealt with. But yet you feel that, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah. So you need to be really authentic and honest with yourself. How am I honestly feeling? And so if you're feeling anger at a level 8, you've got to tap that down to a level 3 or below before you start bringing in the positives. And the positives that you bring in has to be how you're genuinely feeling. So if you're feeling I'm feeling ecstatic, you've got to be feeling ecstatic to be able to accentuate that. If you're feeling feeling all right, and yet you're saying I'm feeling ecstatic, part of your brain is going to go, no, you're not. What are you talking about? You're not feeling ecstatic. You're feeling okay. So what do you say? Yeah, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. And then when you start feeling better, yeah, I'm feeling quite good. Feeling
Mm,
quite good. Feeling quite good. Then when you feel better, yeah, I'm feeling really positive now.
right,
When you get better, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good now.
right.
Feeling ecstatic.
Yeah.
You've got to be honest with how you're feeling with this technique for it to work.
Mm. Thank you so much for your time today, sis. So in the last few minutes, can you share with us how we can find you, what kind of services that you offer
Yeah.
that people can use to continue their tapping journey with you and continue their journey into kind of health and wellness generally?
Yeah, definitely. You can email me, at info@stimulus.uk.com. My website is stimulus.uk.com. That is probably the best way to get hold of me. I'm on Facebook, Carmen Gilfillan. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I've got my books website. There's two books that I've written. One called The Inner Rising, and one called Taking Back Control. And both of those are available on my website, booksbycarmen.com. So you can either find me at stimulus.uk.com, or you can find me at booksbycarmen.com. You can email me info@stimulus.uk.com, and I'm on social media as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. I've just found your Instagram. Thank you so
Okay,
much for your time today, sis, and
thank
for
you. Thanks for having me.
being here. Is there a last message that you would like to share with sisters before we wrap up?
Yeah, when you learn it, use it.
Mm,
Use it for anything.
mm,
There's so many people that I've come across, and I've bumped into them and had a chat with. Oh yeah, I remember you. Yeah, I was at your meeting here or there, wherever it is. Oh yeah, we did that tapping thing, isn't it? Yeah, I've not used it since. Use it. Use it, because the more you use it, the stronger it will become, and the more creative ways you'll find to use it to
mm.
deal with your stuff. And you don't necessarily have to wait until you're in the thick of it to
Right,
try and tap your way out of it.
right.
Tap in the morning, tap at lunchtime, tap in the evening. Make it a part of your day.
Mm,
And if you do that, you will find that you won't necessarily experience these spikes, these emotional spikes and dips.
mm,
You'll go through life more like this. You'll find this calm will creep in to your life, across your life,
mm,
if you entertain this, if you really kind of make this technique your friend. Don't dismiss it because of its simplicity. It's
mm,
potentially very, very powerful. And the one-to-ones are potentially very, very powerful. So, if you are interested in going deeper, then please contact me. I'll give you my phone number as well, actually. It's 07988849727. So 07988849727. You can, best way to contact me is to WhatsApp me, and leave a message if you ring and I don't answer, and then I will ring you back. And then if you wanted to have a chat about going deeper with tapping, we can do that with a view to having one-to-one sessions.
wonderful. Thank you so much for, and we're in the UK, by the way, so if anyone's watching that's
Yes.
in the UK, you put the +44 at the beginning of it, and that's how you would get that phone number. Thank you so much for your time today,
Thank you.
and
Thank you. Thanks
everyone
for
that's
having me.
been watching. I'll share all of Carmen's details in the show notes below, and um, you know, I hope to have her back on again in the future to talk about the other work that she does, especially Sweden. In fact, I would love to have you back on to go a bit more detail
Yeah,
about the
definitely.
Sweden program. And
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you for joining us at the Naturally You Radio. You can find out more about the work that we do and watch the other episodes and listen to the other episodes at thenaturallyyoucoach.com. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care and stay healthy.